Hello and welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to learn about storage account security with respect to the access controls. Yes, we are talking about how best we can secure our data layer and the management layer. So that's where we're going to talk about it. So when we talk about a storage account, there are two major things. One would be the data layer. That's where your Azure files or maybe queues or whatever the Azure services that you are talking about, the entire data will be inside your data layer. So let's say a user is storing some files that's going to saved inside the data layer, and also your applications that are actually working with the backend by connecting to the data layer. And when it comes to the management layer, what exactly management layer is? Management layer means like you are trying to access, and that's where you're going to actually doing some kind of control for changing the account permissions in order to grant, let's say, for access, or maybe checking storage account properties or changing the permissions to the storage account, or performing any kind of administration tasks on your storage account would come into the management layer. So there are two layers, as I said earlier: data layer, which we can consider as the user access to some of the files or folders, or maybe your web app maybe trying to access some kind of images or objects which are inside your storage account, or your applications access. If you take it as the queues example, that application is sending some kind of messages by using some kind of queue services within your storage account, so that will be treated as a data layer. So now you know that data layer is what exactly, and also the management layer. Now let's talk about how best we can actually secure with a combination of data layer and the management layer. So the first thing first would be the access keys. In the previous lectures, in fact, we talked about the introduction lectures also about the access keys. So that's the access keys, like you have the full key, where are the two keys you have. One is a key 1 and the key 2, that will have full permissions. When I say the full permissions, with respect to the management layer as well as the data layer, so you have the full permission. So it's only recommended for admins who wanted to control the entire storage account, so because it's a key, primary key, right? And when it comes to the object level of permissions, let's say you have some kind of queues only to be granted, or maybe a file shares to be created, or with a specific file share folder to be granted read-only, write, or permission, such things would come into the access signature, or something called shared access signature. That's also in short we called SAS. So we call it as a SAS most of the time. So SAS is another type of access key. So if you are looking for a granular level of control, then we go for SAS. We never go for the access keys. And also it is a habit that if Azure admin has changed, we would always changes or rotate the keys that we have for key 1 and key 2, and wherever it was referred within your program, that all we would actually change it. And coming back to the RBAC, or role-based access control, we have a dedicated lecture on this specific topic. This is more about management layer, but it also a data layer also. So it's a combination, I would say. And this is where you can actually access, let's say there's a user who wants to have an access on a storage account, we can grant the permissions to manage that, or view only, and all that can be granted. So it's very similar for any other Azure services that you are working with. RBAC, similar thing, you can have the role-based access control. So it's like granting the permissions for specific users. And apart from this, you can also go for Azure managed identities can be configured, and Azure AD access can be configured for your storage accounts. So let's jump into a quick demo to understand about starting with the access keys, and then followed by shared access signature, or nothing but a SAS, and also a little bit of the role-based access control. So I'm back to my storage account that we have been working within this demo. So within the storage account, you have a keys here, access keys. So when we talk about the access keys within this lecture, this is the access keys. So this is represents here the access keys, and with this access keys you have two keys. Normally we won't show you here, because we try to hide it, because these keys are the complete control of your storage account. We can delete any files, we can create any files, we can upload, we can do anything with any of these keys. Let's see, if I have this key, I can connect with the storage account by using a storage account explorer, which is the storage explorer tool, or different tools can be used with a combination of these keys, and we can connect it and we can do whatever we want to do it. So this is very high level of the key, but when I say high level, actually with this key you can actually work with the blob services, you can work with file services, you can work with table services and queues. So any service that can be accessed. But what if you want to change the keys? Let's say there was an admin 1 and he left the organization. When he left, he knows this is a key, and if he written somewhere or he saved the key, so you have an option to rotate the keys. But remember that this key, if it is referenced anywhere within your applications, you also have to change the key of this specific key. So without any downtime, what you can do is you can reference the key to as a first point, and then you can click on this simple rotate key. So this would actually regenerate the access keys, and if you see here, this is getting regenerated now and the new key got there. So this key can be again referenced into your application later point. If you wanna, you can rotate this key too. So this way you will not have any problem in the applications downtime side. So with the access keys, yes, you have a full control on your file services, your blob services, queues and tables. But what if you want to grant a specific permissions? So that's where actually SaaS comes into the picture, and you can grant a specific permissions on a specific services. Let's say I want to grant access only for blob, and let's take out all these other storage services like file and queues and tables. And I can say that in the blob, I wanted to read and write, but I don't want to allow the users to be delete. And I'm okay with the list and add and create. Let's see. And I can do this permissions, and I can say that in a future date, this permission should be allowed, or maybe a specific certain time, maybe within that change window time between this specific time, like 8 p.m. to maybe 4 p.m. between, or 4 a.m. between, only allowed this specific action, that is read, write and list and create on a specific date and time. And with the time zone also you can specify, let's see, this can be UTC time zone you can choose. And later point, you can also secure, very similar to the way we secure with a firewall, you can add that public IP address, so that only that specific IP address only will be allowed, not any other IP address can access this specific blob service. So you can do that, where you can more secure it. And let's take this and try to generate this also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take as a blob and as a service and container and object. These are the resource types that I wanted to allow on a specific time window. Let's say from a 16th to 17th, between so and so time zone. And I can give some IP address if I really want it, and I can say by using a key one I can use and generate. So that's where actually you have the key one and key two. So it uses the key one, but you are actually limiting the permissions just to a specific allowed services and type of that specific resource with a granular level of permissions. But unfortunately, once you generate it, you cannot stop that actually, or you cannot delete that granted permissions, and if at all you have already shared. So let's review it, what best we can do. So I wanted for the blob and the service and container object, and also permissions, full permissions, except the delete. And I'm going to actually take it right away to till the 16th, that's till tomorrow. and then on the time zone I can choose, and as I said, we can go for the IP address based restrictions, which I have not done. I'm going to actually generate this key. So what would happen is in the back end, it actually generates this key, and I can copy this SAS URL. Let's say copy it, and I can connect it by using Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer. So this is a tool which needs to be downloaded and installed on your machine in order to work with your storage account, or else you have to completely work with the PowerShell, but it's more difficult. If you think, then this is the best tool that we use it. In fact, this tool also hard-coded coming up into your browser. That's a Storage Explorer here, if you see. And if you want to download, just go to the overview and open in Explorer, and you can download here. This is if you click on it, you can download this tool. Later point, install, and this tool will be open. Later point, you can click on connect, and you have an option here as a SAS URI connect. So click on that and simply paste the URL. Automatically it will detect that URL, and it will differentiate what to be done, all that. And you can simply choose. If you see here, this is a blob specific, that's a blob end based on the previous lecture. If you remember, it will be always storage account name.blob.co.windows.net, and this is the display name that's going to be hard coded here. So I'll just say connect and connect. So now this blob container is connected, and I'm able to pull up all the containers that are available. So as part of previous demos, we did create a demo, VHD and VHD demos, all that are available, and I can upload here any of the file. Let's say I want to upload here some files, so I can simply upload and choose here by 3 dots. You can upload this file, example upload. So this is gonna do the backend upload. So this is uploading, and in the backend it actually starts something called a zcopy command, which is available with the PowerShell. If you want to do any changes later point, you can do it with the PowerShell, or if you are trying to work with the PowerShell. So this is the commandlet that has automatically created for us, and the file has been uploaded. So if I just go back to my Storage Explorer within the browser, so I'll just go here and to the blob. So I'll just click on the blob and containers, and from there I can see under, if you see here, this is the VHD-demo. So I'll just go here, VHD-demos, and inside this now I'm able to see here .rdb file, which was just uploaded. So that's how it's going to work, the SAS. So this is same thing that you can actually generate for your entire storage accounts based on any of the service that you wanted to grant the permissions. Let's say I wanted everything, then you can just create that, and you can set even for the future date. Let's say I wanted this from 16th to 17th. So what happens is after generating this, I can use this any of these keys that I need to send it to my engineer who's going to work on that, maybe on queues or tables or file services. He can use that key to connect it. So in my case, I'm going to actually use a SAS token, and I can use this. So this is the password kind of thing, which is used. And for connecting, you can use this connection string for your programs and other things. So any of them you can use and try to connect it, but you cannot actually post to the connection. You cannot do any changes also, because it's not going to work because the time was not yet started. So there's no point of you connect it. And coming back to the previous one, we haven't option got the action to delete. So let's try to delete. What happens actually, it says that I couldn't delete it because insufficient credentials. I don't have permissions for the previous one. So that's how you are actually going to create a SAS based access. Let's try with the full keys, that's the access keys. So what happens is if I try to connect by using the connection string simply and go back to my SAS. So if I want to disconnect here, I can simply click on detach. So that would actually take out my connection. And if I want to connect again, click on this connect button and say I want to connect with the storage account and key. So here I'm going to actually paste the complete storage account name, and then the key I would be pasting here. So I'll just go back to the Azure portal and simply I use the key as this. So I'll simply paste the key information, and the account name is this. So this is the storage account name. So I'll just copy the account name and I'll paste it here. And I wanted to give this display name as the same thing. So I'll simply click on next. That would actually go ahead and connect with primary key or the first key to my storage account, and it pulls all the services that are associated with this storage account. Let's say blob, I can actually pull up all the blob containers and files, and I can in fact create a file share. Say that this is for my shade 1 for file server. I can give this, so that's going to create a shade, and I can upload the files, and that can be anybody can upload the files also. So I have a full control. So only the concern would be in case in future if this key got compromised, all you have to do is regenerate that key. So I would lose the connectivity if at all I try to use with this previous key connection. It's not going to work. So that's how you're actually using and rotating. This is very important in terms of the real time when you're working on Azure storage account. And also you can in fact actually create a SaaS out of this storage account explorer also. In this case actually I have already regenerated, so I couldn't get any other key, but I'm gonna detach and reconnect it quickly to this. I'm going to reconnect by using the another key because I just refreshed during this demo, right, the key, so it doesn't work. So I'll just use this time as the storage account name, and I'll copy paste the key and the account name and display name and simply connect. So this time I got able to connect it. So now as a next step within this, I should be able to pull any of these containers, and even I can actually grant an access right from here, a shade access signature directly from your storage account explorer. So let's say I want from a local time or UTC, I can choose, and later point I can read, write whatever the permission I wanted. I can simply click on create based on the time zone, and it's gonna actually create the complete permissions very similar to that. You see here it has created the key now container. So simply have to all I have to do is just copy, and then I should be able to reconnect, or just to connect with the SaaS. Let's see, I'm going to detach this now, and I'm going to connect with that shade access signature with the URI. So I'll simply click on next, and I'll give this URI. That would actually gives me only that specific container, which is VHD demo only will be available for me with that specific permission. So this is very important and very useful in terms of using the storage explorer tool, because you can do almost everything from here, right, directly. And that's why Microsoft is trying to integrate, and in fact it is in a public preview currently, directly to work from Storage Explorer as a tool. Let's try to understand about the SaaS signature by creating one of the SaaS policy. So before we create the SaaS policy, let's understand the SaaS signature. So I'm going to generate, this is where the actual policy comes. We would be looking in a minute or so about the SaaS policies, and for now we'll try to take some of the permissions and try to generate this a specific time to so and so time to like 15th to 16th, like a 1 day, and let's try to create that. So it's going to actually generated a SaaS key, and if I try to copy this to my notepad here, and if I just increase the font for you, try to separate the entire signature URL with and symbol. So if you see wherever the and, that's actually a separate. So I'm just gonna hit and button to the next lines so that it will be easy to understand for us. So source is that, and this is the time. Again, hit enter. So you see here, this is the URL which is talking about the blob, as we talked in the introduction lectures. If it is anything coming as the blob as a service, that means it's a blob service. And this is the signature stats date would be here. and this is the end date, start end date. So the service start time and the service end time is this, with the source as C, and this is a kind of Microsoft internal information. And if you see here, this is a signature. So what if I try to alter whatever it was there? For example, this is started from 15th to 16th only. So let's say if I start as putting as a 17th, it's not going to work because all these values has a signature, that is this. So this is a signature, so this has been generated based on the above all of these information. So if anything is changed, again this becomes as invalid, so you cannot have the access. So that's how you need to understand about this has URI. If you break out, this is how it looks like. So let's jump into access policies to understand more also. So for we learned about the shared access signature or SAS specific creation. So it's easy to create, but what if, or how do you actually manage whatever it was generated? So by doing this demo, I might have already created 4 or 5 times, right? So how do I know that the first 1, 2, 3 keys are the SAS based URLs which are created? How can I manage it? So definitely you cannot manage if you try to generate from the browser based Azure portal. So the only better way of managing would be use Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer and create a SAS policies. So what exactly the SAS policy? It's a policy that you first create, and on top of it you are going to regenerate the SAS. So it's like the top policy would be a parent policy, SAS policy, and on top of it whatever the SAS is you're trying to regenerate, it becomes as the child. So you have a control on a topper policy. If you delete that topper policy or you modified, the inherited automatically the below policies. So let me explain that what I'm trying to talk here. Let's say I wanted to generate now a SAS policy for my VHD demo. What I'm going to do is, you see here, I'm going to actually have an option here. When I try to create here get shared access signature, I'm going to actually create here a policy, but I don't have a here policy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually right click here and click on manage access policies. So this is where I can actually create a policy. So I'm going to click on add, and I can give here a name to identify. Let's say this is for my VHD's SAS, and I wanted this to be granted access from 16th to let's say on till my 22nd of this month. I'm gonna expire this policy for only read, or I wanted to allow, maybe add also. So I can choose here, and the time zone also I can choose. So this becomes as a one access policy. Let me save this policy. What happens is, post to this, when I try to create any SAS policy, let's say if I just right click this time and use get shared access signature, now I have an option here to choose this policy. Let's say the policy is, this is the policy for my VHDs. By default, now you have the start time and end time, so it was already added, and I can simply generate out of this by clicking on creating. So the timestamp is already given and the access permissions is already given. All I can do is I can simply create now. So what happens is, let's say I wanted to copy this to my clipboard. Now if I want to connect, I can connect it, but let's say I want to modify the currently created policy. Instead of the 17th, I wanted to modify right away. I can do that directly by going to the manage access policies and simply do the change to 15th here, so that it gets automatically when you click on the save, it is actually affected. So you have an option to control your shared access signatures. Earlier, whatever we have done so far just before the access policies, all that we don't have option to roll back, we don't have an option to control it. But when you create signature, you have an option, you have a control mechanism, so you can use it. So this can be is the best way to manage at least the SaaS options. Let's jump into the other topic, which is the last, which is the role-based access control. In fact, we have a dedicated lecture, and you can check out that lecture, but just wanted to high-level touch on it. So any of the Azure resources that you want to go for a role-based access, it's almost the same thing that either you can create your custom role or you can use existing roles. So to configure the role-based access control, you can go to AM, that is access control, and from here you have an option to choose check if a person is saying that, hey, I don't have a permissions, then definitely you can go and check it whether that specific person has what kind of permissions he has. And for the role assignment, you can assign directly from here for the users, and you can check the built-in roles that are available. Let's say you want to grant a permission on a storage blob, all that you can simply have to check out what is most useful for that user. Let's say I want a blob complete owner, I wanted to delegate complete blob service on a storage. I can simply grant the specific permissions so that users can delegate a key which can be used in a sign-in for SaaS tokens. So such kind of built-in rules are available already for the storage account. You can use them. Otherwise, you can create a custom role and you can assign that specific role for your users or user groups basically. So I hope this RBAC is that you would be dealing in another lecture, but it's quite same, and all you have to do is just to go through these one line description on the I button, which is information about what it talks about, and then use that specific role-based access groups, which is a built-in groups most of the time. Otherwise, you simply grant that access, and for the troubleshooting you can always go ahead and check or give the input for the access and try to find out. I hope this lecture is useful for you. Thank you for watching this. We'll catch you in the next lecture.